Okay, let's have a look at the brand new beta firmware. If you want to go and grab beta 1.16, go to the Fractal Audio forum. I will put a link in the video description. But there are some cool new features that were added that were wishlist requests that have been fulfilled. One of them was mine, which is super cool. So yeah, thank you to all the Fractal people for listening to your customers and listening to your users. Basically, the multi-band compressor block has had a little bit of a revision, and for using on heavy guitars, it's a lot more flexible now. I did a video last week looking at how we can use multi-band compression to tighten up palm mutes on heavy tones, and one of the limitations with that block was the range of crossover frequencies, so Fractal have gone and revised that, which is really cool. There's some new amp block features as well, and Axe Edit has had another update. I mean, you can just see from the screen here, when you dial up a patch, it will tell you the preset number, the name, and tell you what every scene is doing, and there's also some cool little instructions there. You can also hit block info, and it will tell you what each block is doing, as well as the channel that it is on, which is pretty cool. So that is what that does, and it wasn't added in this version, but we do have the quick build feature, which is so handy. I love this. If you just want to build presets, you can sort of drag and drop them around, which is a lot more user-friendly. So let's have a look at some of the new features. In the amp block, if you go to the power amp section, you'll notice down here in the bottom right, there's this output mode. So FR is just the usual mode that was being used for the Axe FX3. So if you're running into studio monitors like I am now, or you're using something like an Atomic CLR, or you're playing direct to the board, you want to leave your output mode on FR. But if you're using your Axe FX3 with a solid state power amp and a cabinet, this new feature here, SS Power Amp and Cab, which I'm not going to use now because I'm not using a power amp and cab, apparently optimizes the speaker compression to work better with a real speaker and cab. So that's pretty cool. It's something I haven't tried yet. I will get around to doing it very soon. I'll pull my Matrix out and pull a 412 out and make some noise with that. So that's new in the amp block. And then in the preamp section, they have added one of my favorite drive blocks in there to the boost type. At the moment I'm using the Super Overdrive, but they have added the FAS boost type, which we can have a listen to in a second. And then the multi-band compressor block now has a frequency range for each of the crossover bands, which is pretty cool. So the old settings were basically like, if you set it to high, I think the lowest you could get was 1000 hertz. And if you're familiar with the kind of like Andy Sneap style multi-band compression, you want to get this down to like 300, 350 hertz. So you couldn't do that before, but you can now by selecting frequency range to low, and you'll notice that it automatically compensates the crossover range over here. So when you're switching these around, you do have to go back and tweak your crossovers, but you can see now we can get down to 100 hertz, which is super cool. So if I set this to 350 and I set the upper band say to like 90, then what we will do is we'll have much tighter palm mutes. I'll turn this block off. This is the stock sound that I've got going at the moment with the what is it, the Recto Orange. And I could tweak the ratio out further there if I wanted more compression, say if I took it to 3. I quite like it around 2 though, for that kind of thing. So that's kind of like a little update. If you've watched my multi-band compression, that's very Australian. If you've watched my multi-band compression tutorial, I should say, then these features really kind of, I don't know, they make it a lot more usable if you're using it on heavy guitars, or if you're using it on bass guitar as well. This is very nice. So that's the multi-band block. That's what that's doing. Let's have a listen to this FAS boost type. At the moment I've got the SD one, or Super OD as it's called here. This is what FAS boost sounds like. if you read through the release notes for this, there's a couple of like fixes with the looper and a few other things which are pretty handy. Again, this just keeps getting better and better, which is really exciting. So I really like that FAS boost type with basically any high gain amp. I think it's probably in my top 2 or 3 drive blocks, so it's nice to have it in the amp block and not have to add another block there. And the multi-band comp, I'm so in love with this. Again, thank you so much to all the Fractal people for getting this in. And the nice thing as well is, if you really want to sort of fine-tune those palm mutes, you can move these frequencies around a little bit. For example, if I bring the low and high crossover sort of in a little bit, we get this. It's actually quite cool. You can bypass bands as well, which I didn't cover last time. This isn't a new feature, but if you just want to listen to what the multiband compressor is doing to each band, this is what it's doing to the mid-band. And one thing that somebody mentioned in the forum as well is like you can use this to boost the low band as well, which if I leave it at stock settings and then I'll bring it in at like 3, does this. So you can kind of beef up the low end as well. Which sounds really cool. I hadn't tried that. I like it. So this is with the multi-band off. Which is pretty sweet if you ask me. So that is the current Axe-FX 3 Beta 1.16. Pardon me. You can go and get it from the forum. As I said earlier, I'll put the link in the video description, and you can play around with some of the new features, the new boost type, and if you're into heavy guitars, you really need to get into the multi-band compressor because it's such a powerful tone shaping tool, and it's one of these things which I love about the Axe-FX and the whole ecosystem there is, it's really easy to cop classic tones and just sort of pop amp blocks in and stuff like that and get all your favorite sounds, but it's also an amazing tool to like find your sound in there and really fine tune what you like about certain guitar tones or certain styles and stuff like that. And the multi-band comp is definitely one of those ones. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the full release, which I'm sure will be pretty soon once any bugs get ironed out. I haven't run into any bugs on this beta number 2 yet. And yeah, I'm just going to be playing a whole lot of guitar with it. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. Go and grab the firmware, update your Axe 3, make some noise, and I will see you all around very soon. You've been excellent.